This podcast is made possible by the generosity of listeners and viewers like you. Kindly consider a contribution through Patreon or PayPal. Links are in the details box. Any amount is appreciated. And follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The handle, the Beirut Banyan. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And to stay updated with video releases, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. I'm Rawad Taha, and this is the Beirut Banyan. I consider you both friends. You're not sort of episodes only. And I think friendship is what's bringing us here today. And allow me, Rawad, to say that this is inspired by you. It has Laury with us because, Laury, you echoed what Rawad was saying, and I felt it too. Extreme frustration. Before we started recording, we were venting about many things. I'd like to cherry pick them one by one, but
not all of them.
I knew there was a trap.
Diplomatically, let's jump into what happened today. I think it makes sense that we're recording today. This is not planned, obviously. Cynthia Zarazir doesn't know that we're doing an episode. But the fact is, she makes this episode, I think, very meaningful. She's on the news, doing something that's not unusual. There have been a dozen or so, if not more, bank heists. I don't know what the word is yet. Raids. But it's not even, there's no crime per se. She, like many Lebanese, are trying to get their money, which is locked. And some succeed, some don't. It appears that what she wanted happened today. No arms were used. There was a negotiation inside. It took several hours, and it ended. But it was national coverage. We're all talking about it. And I think it's okay to talk about the good and the bad. I think we don't need to be shy. So let me start with that sort of topic in the background. I think this is going to happen with or without her role. We're going to see an increase in bank heists, regardless of what she did today. But as an MP, be as blunt as you'd like, do you think this is the right step for somebody that is supposed to be a lawmaker in parliament rather than an activist on the ground? And I know you can be both. There's nothing that says you have to be one or the other. But in my mind, at least, I thought voting her in or someone like her in meant it's going to be parliament focused, less activism. So we can start there. And as much as you both would like to say, Rawad, I'll start with you.
I think I'm going to be very frank because I was just having the same discussion with someone else, and you both know, I'm not going to specify the name. And
Cynthia Zarazir.
No. But I'm going to be very frank about what I think is wrong with what happened today. First of all, my position on all the bank raids that have happened, that they're legitimate. They're a cause of the failure to restructure the banks over the past 3 years, a failure to adopt a real capital control over the past 3 years. They're legitimate when they're coming from the people, but they're illegitimate at the same time because they don't provide the people with the same options. You know, why should someone be getting $10,000 to $20,000 in fresh amounts, if not more, while someone else, be it me or anyone else who may be suffering even more, cannot have access to the same amount only because they did not have the courage to raid a bank? Still, I'm saying that all what has been done is legitimate for those who were really in need, those who really had to pay for any hospitalizations, and even those who really just needed their money back and they were fed up of the system. It's legitimate from their side.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is not really the solution. The solution is pushing further to restructuring the banking system and having a concrete 10-year or 20-year plan of how the deposits are going to be given back if they were to be given back. But what happened today raises the bar because we're seeing a parliament member who is demanding
just a little more
demanding her own deposits from the bank But the end result is going to be that she's going to have, or she did actually retrieve part of her deposits, something which millions or hundreds of thousands are not able to do.
Yeah.
So when it's coming from citizens, I'd understand, even supportive in the sense that this puts further pressure on the political elite and on the banking system all in order to do something. But when it's coming from a parliament member, I personally don't support it, because she's getting her share and possibly it's her right, but everyone else isn't. And her role is to further question the government, further suggest laws and regulations, and not be raiding a bank.
So before I get to you, I'll throw it in a way both of you can answer, but allow me to be devil's advocate for Cynthia Zarazir, which I thought I'd never do. But here's my try. She needs money for surgery. That's what she said she needed the money for. Her friends on social media and even on TV, some standing next to her, echoed that sentiment, that this is not, in a way, this is similar to a citizen who needs money, like what was happening the past weeks for surgery. She files the paperwork, she shows proof of whatever she needs, and she's an MP at the same time. So is there anything that leans on her side in this story? Meaning that she's simply doing what other citizens are doing, and maybe just shows that her role as an MP is useless. And I'll go all the way here, because for me personally, I'll go a step further than you, Rawad. I don't see a point of being a member of parliament if you're going to be doing this. And I think that's the sentiment you're saying, but I'll take it to its limit. Maybe she's better as an activist, not a member of parliament, because it shows something's wrong. As an MP, a new MP, doing her job on the street. So maybe I'll start with you, Laury, but Rawad, whenever you want to butt in.
Well, she is an activist, and I think she went to the parliament and with the mentality of an activist. And that's why it is important to have political parties. And this is where political parties and these new political parties have a meaning, because I can have a political party that sees things through sustainable political work, through systems, institutions. And then if I have an activist, I can control my activist and push that activist when he or she is in parliament to work as a parliamentarian. And the political party can keep doing whatever activists could do, so they would have that role to play as political activism on the ground, having people maybe to do different things, and the parliamentarians do what they're supposed to do. And that's why that's the beauty of having political parties. And that is one important point to remember, that Cynthia comes from a background of activism. She was on the street, everybody knows her when during the revolution, and then it happened that seat in Beirut was the easiest seat,
jackpot.
And we knew the jackpot. Anyone could have run for that seat on that list and won
made it
it.
to parliament.
Yes. So, and now she has to play the role that she's supposed to play in parliament. I think she needs guidance, and so how to play that role, because we were discussing that she could have a positive role to play as a young activist, that she's not afraid of anything, etc. She has that stamina. She has that if you want, like courageous thing, something that she has, that kick, that she could use it good in parliament and not as an activist. So this is very important.
Yeah.
So I think what they were trying to do today is that they wanted to portray her like she's one of us people. Like she went to the bank, and like she wanted her money, and that she could have done the other way again, like to talk about, because I've been reading about this, like people's reaction. People were saying she's an MP, she could have done it without any of all of this and go and use her power as an MP and get the money. But she wanted to show that she's one of us, and she is like with the people. But the problem is that, is she doing enough in the parliament before being one of us? We elected her, so now she's a member of parliament. So is she doing enough? Have you heard her talk about the restructuring? Did she push for the restructuring of the banking restructuring system? This is one of the laws now that need to be ratified in the parliament after the budget. This is one of the main issues that are being discussed in parliament, or they will be discussed, because now we're still waiting for the draft law on the restructuring. So she has to do her work there and not to do the stunt that she has done today, because I don't think that it was marked by people that she's one of us. It was marked that
she's a parliament member. And
Yeah.
and I want to add something in particular. For example, when the budget was being discussed over the past few weeks, and in many instances we saw a few parliament members from the 13 who really had great stances inside parliament, how they assessed the budget, how they discussed it, what they talked about. I remember, for example, Firas's speech was really on point in terms of the technicalities. So I think many of the people inside parliament are doing their jobs as parliamentarians, especially Mark also, for example. And to add on something in particular, that there is this thin line between you being an activist inside and being a parliament member as well. And I think that really and I was kind of astonished by a few instances of where she used this activism inside parliament, to write down clear messages, especially, for example, during the last session, when the first session to elect a president, when she told Birri right away that your bloc could have stayed and we could have elected a president, and in the most activist manner and in a really tone that is very close to the people. But there was really a political stance and meaning, something which I personally did not see today.
Yeah. So I agree with both of you are saying. She's daring, but daring in one way only, which is better fit for an activist. And I worry that when she's a member of parliament, it dilutes the meaning of being a member of parliament. And I think there's a double-edged sword here. Because what she did today is, again, I mean, she's picking up where other people have left off. She's not the first one to do this. She's not setting a precedent. She's doing a tactic that others have done. But it's just, for me, it just doesn't sit well.
And then to talk about something which is privilege, a lot of the discussion was whether she's really privileged or not, but she's the only one who raided a bank without a gun or without a fake toy. And she was able to do it just with a lawyer. I mean, if she wasn't a parliament member and she was in there not posing a threat to the employees and to the bank manager, someone would have jumped in and just, told her you're not getting anything, and she would have been put in outside the bank branch just by one of the security guys handling the situation. But it wasn't the case because she was a parliament member. So whether we like it or not, or whether those supporting her and her stunt today like it or not, she was privileged in what she did today because she was a parliament member.
So let's talk about the publicity stunt tactic and take it to the bigger picture. Does this type of political action, as an MP, but a civil society activist, doing something like a bank heist, does that accelerate a problem that's so big right now, which is the banking sector? Meaning, does it add to the burden that's already there? Or is everything happening irrespective of what she did? In my mind, an MP doing it allows many more people to be a little more daring in what they're about to do. And I really worry that anarchy begins to define everything, whether it's her, whether it's a citizen, or whether it's somebody with a gun. And it hasn't happened yet, but I do see innocent people suffering if this keeps happening. It could be a bystander. It could be someone that doesn't appreciate what's happening and maybe pulls the trigger. And I know it didn't happen today, but I always worry that this kind of national coverage, extreme attention on what she did, makes things worse. So maybe, Laura, you can... And if you see it wrong, please tell me, because I want you to...
No, it's... definitely, people are frustrated. And today, while Cynthia was in the bank, I was in the other side of the bank, another bank. and trying to get money,
No one
my
covered-
salary.
no one covered your
no
heist.
no one covered me. Thank God. I was trying to get to withdraw money. I couldn't. So that was first ATM failed. Then I had to go to the other region. So from Antilles, I had to move to Jaladi. I was able to get a bit of the money,
Yeah.
and people were frustrated at that ATM. Then I had to go to the third ATM in Jdeide. So I wasted like more than 1 hour trying to get my salary out.
So you're driving around while this is happening.
Exactly, at the same time that Cynthia was doing. And I was like thinking, look, so if I were an MP, what would I have done? Would I have been, I don't think I would have had the same salary, first of all, so I would have been waiting for the parliament to give me the salary. But I think people will start thinking about it, and from the opposition to the opposition, they will start saying that yes, she used her privileges to go into the bank unarmed, but getting what she wanted because she's an MP. And so, what's the difference between her and other MPs that they're doing it? But we don't know about them. But at the end of the day, they're getting their money out, or they're being able to access
a stunt, with a few phone calls,
access their money
without publicity. And
so they should have thought about it more, because I'm sure like she didn't come up with the idea on her own, and there is a team around her.
Oh, do you think this was, I don't know. I thought this is just her trying to...
No, I definitely think it was not her own idea.
Oh, really?
So the team that is around her need to work with her on making her a better MP
beyond
than
her lawyer.
Than a stunt hero or a stunt personality. She deserves to be to put all her capacities in becoming a really inspiring MP as a woman, as a young woman, as a daring
it's
woman.
Picking up the vibration. If you can put it on there, thanks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as a woman,
pick that up too.
So as a woman, as a daring woman, as a young woman, so she has to inspire people in the parliament for the parliamentary work. She doesn't want to be a parliamentarian. She feels like this is a lot of stress for her. Maybe she could resign. And if she feels that maybe that's not the right path for her, maybe she should resign. And that would be really a statement as well. So like she prefers to be more of an activist and feel alive than just being in the parliament and having to deal with the dinosaurs that we have. And she feels maybe that she's not able to do things. And maybe today, and at the end of the day, someone needs to ask her, like, how did she feel about that? And شو حسيتي?
May I ask you, Laury, since you brought up a word
maybe
that
she was really like, she felt that this is her role.
Yeah.
And her role as an activist, I don't know. So I don't want to like
or
respect for her, but like I don't want to dwell on this and just like sit and judge or anything.
No, but you said two things that are important. You offered a way out for somebody who cannot function effectively in parliament, which is not a bad choice. It's to resign when you feel like you can't get your job done. And I think that's true. The second thing, you talk about political parties. When you say party, do you mean something that's registered, or do you mean actual party as in 2 people, 3 people, as long as they call themselves something? Because she's technically in a party. It's just not something that's officially structured. Just like many MPs in the 13 are in, I don't know what to call them. It's not boutique parties, but groups, yeah. Are you talking more something that is recognized officially as a party? Or are you talking more like just size?
Look, at the end of the day, we do have today like a group of people that they're trying so hard to really work together. There are differences, and they're trying for months to really work around these differences, to find a way like to manage differences and then to stay together. They feel that their mandate and what people are expecting from them is to stay together. So they're under pressure in that sense, and they're not all like, they don't think alike. They're not the same. It's not that they were running on the same list and then they all won. So they come from different places with different background, different history.
And even the people on the same lists, they're not the same.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, they are doing a lot of work. Some are succeeding because there is an institution behind them. Some, they're still individuals.
What do you mean by institution, though?
Like I give you the example of Taqaddum.
Yeah, that's
so
what
Taqaddum is an institution.
Oh, so you think of Taqaddum as that's the right kind of size. Because Taqaddum is a very small
It is
group.
small.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a boutique political
I was trying
party.
to
This
be
is what
polite.
you're trying to
Yeah.
say.
He's
I
kind.
like, when I travel, I like to go to boutique hotels. I cannot afford with my salary, but my wish is like to go to boutique hotels.
No, sorry, I meant more like
It is a small
group-
size,
a group-
but it is organized.
a group that's not in
It
parliament.
is organized.
Yeah,
We
but
support Mark and Najat. Not every time they have the right answers. Not every time they have the right thinking. They're under pressure. They're all under pressure. So at least we, sitting in the political bureau, we have less pressure so that we can think. We see clearer sometimes, and we advise, and we give them like guidance sometimes. We tell them, they come tell us like this is it. So they give us information. We take these information, we process them because we are sitting behind. We're not under the limelight. We're not under pressure, and we see
We're seeing
clearer.
the wider picture.
Exactly,
So-
and we
so
give them
it's-
advice, and they go taking that advice to the 13th or to the parliament.
So let's say not about
This is important.
not about her personally. Let's say somebody like her. Is the disadvantage that she doesn't get advice, an institutional like advice? Because like you said, Taqaddum is small, but the members are known, and you're one of those important members. Is it that she doesn't have that kind of friendly ear to lean on? Because I thought somebody like her does have that kind of friendly advice that she gets. And from what you were saying, I read it wrong. I thought this was her own initiative today. I thought she literally went with her lawyer to the bank. But if that's...
You have to ask her. We're
if that-
just
sure.
saying.
No, but I
We're
meant...
assuming what's
We're
the-
assuming
Sure, but-
from what
What
we
we
know.
Yeah, but in terms of advice, are you meaning expert advice that she doesn't have?
She is a parliamentarian.
Yeah.
She needs guidance to do her work. She needs support. All of them, they need support. You know
yeah.
how much we suffer to get support for Mark and Najat? So it's a lot of work. They need the support. She needs to be supported. Now she's an MP with a lot of potential. She needs to work on that rather than being used as an activist and a stunt star.
see.
And
see.
I
Yeah.
think there's something that's really important to re-emphasize on what Laury was just saying is the fact that in the next phase and over the next 3 years, the only thing we need right now is political organization. In every other way on form, in every other way that an individual or a person supports certain ideologies, supports certain groups, but we need political organization. This political chaos, if I may say, that has been happening over the past 3 to 4 years, which brought in very good energy at times, which resulted in this momentum that led to this 13 new MPs to be in parliament. This was good, but over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, the key answer to everything, in my opinion, is political organization in many different ways and forms. I believe there are a great number of, and I think the number should be even less, but I think there is a great number of political organizations which already exist. Taqaddum is one of them. I personally find a lot of my values shared with Taqaddum. National Bloc could be another option. Even towards the left side of the spectrum, there's Lana, they're trying to do their own thing. There is even, with all the differences I have with the Muwatinun and Muwatinat, they're trying to do their own thing.
Yeah.
I think the key now to every other person who wants to be involved in politics is to see which one of those opposition parties or alternative political parties that best meets their own political views on the spectrum. Choose a party, be invested in it, and work towards finding change within those parties, because being lone wolves in the next period is a very tough game, and it's not a tough game on an individual level but on the country level. I mean, even those 13 MPs, if they don't find spots for themselves within institutions, if they consider rerunning in 3 to 4 years, it's a very tough battle. And it's a very tough battle to bring in this momentum which brought them to parliament this October 17 and post-explosion momentum that brought this wave of change. If this wave of change is not institutionalized, it's going to be a catastrophe in 3 to 4 years. The key answer to this is institutionalizing, and here it's not only the role of the parliament members, but also the role of every other individual who is an activist, who is in the political scene. I think the populace and the revolutionary purity approach, which a lot of people still have today, they need to let go of it and find institutions. No institution is perfect. No institution meets our ideology 100%. But at least inside those institutions, no matter how big or small, you can invest in something and make it grow, and you can invest in change that could be sustainable. And one more thing to add on, which is I think a very important idea, which comes in relation to this, institutionalization topic that we're handling, is what happened over the last election was that the people decided to break the glass ceiling, and they decided to opt for alternative views in politics, non-sectarian, which is great. And I think this is the major achievement that happened in elections, disregarding who the 13 MPs are. Yes, a lot of them have worked so much on themselves and on adopting certain political ideologies, but the breakthrough is that the people themselves broke the political ceiling and the glass ceiling. And for this to be sustained, you need to offer the people something more concrete in the next period, and more clarity. And more clarity comes with institutions.
The topic of organization has been brought up since October 17. We've had the same conversation for almost 3 years, and in my mind, maybe I'm wrong, the inclination to organize is not there, even when it should be there. So my understanding of the frustration is that all the effort that's being made to coalesce around a few groups has become such an enormous challenge. And it could be one example. You mentioned the National Bloc earlier in the conversation. They're a registered party. They have the registration. They have the brand. They have an institution. They have land. They have property. It's so hard to see groups coalescing into that party. And sometimes you see people that won in parliament riding on a wave of victory that don't see the need to coalesce. And I don't blame them. Why would a boutique party like Taqaddum, sorry, I'm using your phrase now, 2 MPs entered. I mean, I don't blame Mark or Najat for wanting to compromise on that when they won. Or for that matter, something more boutique. Khat Ahmad is a one-man show. He won. I can imagine that it's for him a bit, it goes against inertia, that why would I want to be smaller in something bigger? But I think long term, that's the only way. And yet in the short, medium term, it's hard to see it happening. And this includes things like the quiet discussions happening behind the scenes that don't materialize into much. You're much more involved, both of you.
But
Sorry. You're both directly involved in some ways. I know it from whispers. I know it from WhatsApp messages sometimes that's the ceiling that hasn't been cracked, which is getting October 17 to really run along 2 groups, left of center, right of center, and that's it. Really, just 2 groups that make sense. That's just not happening. So, Laury.
And I just want to clarify.
Yes.
And not clarify actually, because I'm really upset. So something that I will take it out of my chest.
This is why we're here. We're going to get to why we're upset later.
So because because you mentioned this issue of here comes a political party, a very nascent political party. Now we're calling it a boutique political party.
I didn't mean it in a condescending way. I meant it in more like in a small.
I love going to boutique hotels. I cannot afford going to boutique hotels. For me, boutique hotels are these like gems. So Taqaddum is the gem, political gem. So we have 2 MPs, each of them inspire something, which is different but complementary.
Absolutely.
Fine. We have good people in the party, and then you see people not wanting to join effort, but wanting to do something completely new. And I'm talking about just Taqaddum because there are others as well. So we have formed groups, political parties, we've put so much effort on them. So why do you want to come to the, and we with success, so now we have MPs, etc. Why would you just ignore all of this success and decide that no, we want to do something, we want to bring everybody together and do something new? How is that possible? And these are the same people that were trying to do for years this big one thing that has failed, and now you have success you're not building on.
100%.
So this is my problem. Like, I don't understand. I'm invited to these meetings where we need to discuss about organizing ourselves. I do have 2 MPs. We're functioning. I need all your support, great ideas to put it together, to grow this thing, and then later have more MPs. We cannot think that way. This is a problem for me. We cannot say, for me, there are some people who need to retire from politics. Khalas. You agree?
I agree.
Sorry. Sorry. But can I? No. Wait. Sorry, Rawad. I will let you. But I want to understand, Laury. You're talking about the opposite of what I'm saying, meaning you want Taqaddum to have more support on its own rather than shedding a bit of its.
No, what I'm saying is like there is the tendency to ignore the success that has happened and just pretend that this thing never happened, and let's think about a new platform. It's like,
right.
Why would I blend
Yeah.
into a new platform when I did my work for years and I spent hours and away from my family? Sometimes, like, I had to take breaks and take leave from my work to put all my effort in this, and then we succeeded, and then you want me now to ignore all of this and you expect me to put my effort in creating something new that is all people coming together.
It's going back to what Rawad said earlier, which is
so this is frustrating for me, since now it's about like talking about frustration. It is frustrating.
No, but it's more like looking at the next election.
No, but I don't oppose her views in one way or another. I mean, when I talked about political organization, I mentioned that there are already political
I'm not opposing what he's
parties
saying
on the scene. All what I'm saying is that for the smaller groups, the individuals, be in political organizations, no matter what their size is. I mean, I think one way or another, but in a very homogeneous way that is not enforced, all the people who have the same political views and political visions and are on the same side of the political spectrum will reach a point, maybe not now, maybe in 3 years, maybe in 4 years, that they will eventually be in the same political organization. I personally think Laury and I at some point in time will be in the same political organization. But again, my point on emphasizing that people need to take the decision to be involved in institutions, no matter what the size of those institutions is. And then the coalition building, which we have all seen in the past 3 to 4 years, which have been really insane in trying to put people who don't share the same views together, on people who can never be on the same table together, it has failed. My only idea, and I think it doesn't, it's not conflicting with what Laury just said about investing in Taqaddum, for example. I mean, there are a certain number of political institutions that are already out there, some bigger than the other, some have MPs, others don't, but they're very clear and we talked about them. My point is, no matter where you fall in the political spectrum, find a place to be involved in an institutionalized mechanism.
So you're drawing the line between what is already institutional and what is not. That's where the line is. Meaning, going back to her, I'm sorry to do this, but Cynthia Zarazir is not in the institutional section. She's outside of it. She gets advantages from being in an institutional.
And this isn't. I mentioned that this is not just about the 13 MPs. It's about everyone
About
involved
everyone.
in the scene. But even the majority of the 13 MPs, they're not in institutionalized organizations. Most of them come from very small groups. Most of them have succeeded in putting their names on electoral lists.
Exactly.
But
the number is like independent. So he or she wakes up in the morning and decides like, okay, today I want to decide this or that. So they like. You know how many hours we fight in Taqaddum to get like to one position, and like for these others maybe sometimes it's so easy, like I wake up this morning, I decide on this based on I don't know what. So, and this is the dynamics that we have. And I remember when we had this as Taqaddum, like one of the challenges about like between Taqaddum and like how to manage the relation between Taqaddum and the 13 MPs. So it was when we wanted to nominate a prime minister. So people were asking, Taqaddum, we voted for you. Like, who is your candidate? So we had to sit and really work on that, even though like the 13 were very behind in thinking about who their candidate is. So but the moment we put our candidate and we were very clear about like, this is our candidate, so the dynamics was like, okay, so you put the name, does it mean that you're imposing that name on the 13 or not? So which wasn't the case, because we were very open. We said, we are Taqaddum. People voted for Taqaddum, for Mark and Najat. They want clarity from Mark Najat, but they have to understand that Mark and Najat, they're part of a 13 that has no clarity yet. So that's the challenge. That's why it is like having institutions helps a lot to guide the decisions. And this is why with what we're seeing there, because if I have a clear decision saying that my president tomorrow is X and Y, and I go to the 13, there is no clarity. The idea is like in the 13, there is this, are we supposed to take the name that was suggested by Taqaddum? Will that look bad because we adopted the name of Taqaddum? So these are the realities that we are not criticizing. On the contrary, we're saying these are the dynamics, these are the challenges, but everyone wants to work together. So we need to push everyone to go there. If my role in Taqaddum is to push people in the 13 to work better, I will do it. So this to understand that whatever we're saying, it's not criticizing. We're just saying that we need to be part of an institution.
So just,
I cannot stay floating that I'm an activist. I go to the streets. I block the streets, etc. We need to be in institutions if we want to play politics.
So just before, sorry, Rawad.
And then I have a job offer for him because we're looking for a national coordinator for Taqaddum. So.
No, I mean, I think that's kind of happened on its own already. You guys are welcome to Taqaddum.
We'll discuss that off the record.
No, let me jump back a bit, but there are a few topics I have to explore with both of you because I know we're going to have friction. I want that. But before we get to the friction, just so I understand, the institutions are available. The effort being made is real to get everyone, or at least the majority, to be supported and advised correctly. There are frustrations in the process. Some of that has to do with simply winning and not feeling the need to let that aspect sort of, I don't want to use the word ego, but it's really still riding the wave that you won without that institutional support. You may be humbled a bit the next time.
I don't think so. I think they're all suffering from an existential crisis and they know it.
So
all 13 MPs.
So what did you mean by dinosaurs then? Because I think you guys both said the dinosaurs have to go. You didn't mean the regime parties. You meant
So there are two dinosaurs. There are dinosaurs in the regime that definitely they need to
but
go.
I don't think that's what you meant.
And then there are activist dinosaurs. Activist dinosaurs that they need to disappear.
So who are these people? This is the first time I've heard of this.
The purity activists, those who want to judge on every other occasion without being involved. This is the message.
This is not one of the 13.
No. We're talking about.
About the external environment.
We're seeing, dinosaurs are those who judge the 13 MPs on every corner, and they want to check their bloodstream on every other corner without being involved.
The Twitter crowd.
Now people who have been in this political arena for years and years, trying to do the same thing and failing. These people have a negative impact on this. We're not talking
about any specific person. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It's not personal. It's not about.
They don't use Twitter.
They don't use Twitter.
They don't.
Sometimes they're on the street. They're in the back ends. It's not really about the Twitter faces. At least they're people you see and know, and you can argue and discuss with. It's more than that. It's a vibe. It's it's a general vibe that's there.
They're projecting their disappointment.
But sorry.
And then they have their own views of politics that don't work anymore.
Without naming names, I won't name names. Is it simply the activists that were mostly you stink, that maybe set the bar a bit too high in terms of expectation, and that the ones that have continued in the background that were not helpful to the elections? Could it be not about them in specific, but a group like Beirut Medinati, for example, that has a certain way of looking at a problem that's out of step with many in the current political climate, especially the 13. Is it that kind of dinosaurish activist that you're describing? No names, just like an understanding of what you mean, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Today we have new realities on the ground. We have a new generation of activists. We need to give space, and we need to give the voice for them, and we need to give them the right to act, because this is really an important moment for change. So that is like what we're looking for.
Yeah. So it's saboteurs, really. It's that kind of nothing is good enough. That kind of language. I'm sorry to keep asking, because I need to get as far as I can.
Okay. Let me jump in here, because I think I can
clean it up. Yeah.
Clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not personal with anyone or with any group, but there is this general vibe, and I think you used a very important statement that nothing is good enough.
Yeah.
And we always need to comment on everything that's going on, and everyone has all the right to be involved in the political scene. But then again, and I'm going to link this back to what we were talking about, which is political organization. You cannot be sitting on your couch at home doing couch activism and then telling 13 MPs who all come from different backgrounds that what you're doing is wrong and that you're throwing in your disappointment on them.
Yeah.
You can not be satisfied with what the 13 MPs are doing, or with what Taqaddum is doing, or with what any specific, or with what Cynthia Zarazir is doing.
Yeah.
You can be not satisfied with the entire situation, but you cannot be just lashing and bashing everyone all the time without being involved. Find your institution, be involved the way you think things should be done, and let's all be involved and work around all the differences of perspective we have. And so I think I linked the two topics together in a way that really specifies where the issue is, or at least how I see it.
Yeah. No, but thank you for letting me push your buttons a bit, because it's the first time I've heard it. I think I know what you're talking about in the background. I just don't see that as important, because they're there regardless of what happens. If 0 MPs emerged, they would be there. If 20 MPs emerged, they would be there too. So I think they're not part of the process Shumasar. They're just outside, and they're going to remain on the fringe, I think.
I have to argue on this point a little bit, and here, because I really sense it sometimes with people who I met on the street, with the younger generation who also have this sort of purity.
I mean, you can't appeal to...
It's not always coming out of frustration as much as it's coming from this purity view. And then again, I think the solution for everyone else, because a lot of people see that these 13 MPs, and here we go back to the issue of the block, that these 13 MPs, no matter what they do, they're the people who are representing me. But then they don't really have any line of direct connection with them because they're not in institutions.
Yeah.
I mean, today, if I'm not directly linked to any of the institutions which are represented through those 13 MPs, I don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those lone wolves and those revolutionary puritist activists, if that's even a term, they think that these 13 MPs should be representing what they believe in or what their moral standards are. And whenever they take a decision, they're fed up, or they don't see that this decision represents them. And it all goes back to political organization. If those people were organized in political organizations, institutions, no matter where they fall on the political spectrum, be it right, be it left, be it center-right, be it center-left, they will have a voice that reaches somewhere rather than a voice that is stuck somewhere on a Twitter bubble or on a social media platform that only sabotages and only throws in disappointment.
That's a very diplomatic way of getting out of that maze. And I think all of us are on the same page in a way, which is you can't appeal to everyone. There is always going to be extremist thought. Within good or bad ideas, there's going to be, what you're describing is beyond Puritan, it's absolute. And I think there will always be that element. But given the circumstances, the 13 are a healthy range. It's not 13 people that stand for the same thing always. There's disagreement. Sometimes the disagreements are exposed. Sometimes there's actual arguments that happen as a result, which I think is good. It shows that this is a wide range of individuals. But let me go down this road with both of you, and I think this is where the anger kicks in. We can start with the most delicate issue, which is line 29.
Yes.
So, Laury, I'll give you the floor here.
The first time we talked about this, we were in class. Laury was my professor.
You're kidding. Really?
Indeed.
In oil and gas.
You're joking.
Yes.
Yes. He did well, if you want to ask.
Line 29?
We talked about line 29, but
In class?
in class, of course.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it
Yeah.
was the geopolitics of the Eastern Mediterranean. So that like basically on oil and gas. So that was an issue.
AUB class?
Yes,
Yeah.
at AUB.
That's really nice.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's really sweet now. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's my professor.
But now, like, I'm really impressed with all these, like, the clarity in politics that he has. Like, I'm really learning a lot from him. So, good job.
No, but
You
I
want
like...
the job you want the job of the national coordinator?
Off the record. Because the people at National Bloc will probably be watching this as well.
So
They're interested too.
let me before we get to this, let me
you said that you will end up like you and I will end up in the same party.
But
I'm not going to the National Bloc.
But
let me save Rawad here. Let me save Rawad. I met him in Mint Tishrin,
Yes.
and I met him as a Kitli friend. I know him through a media channel we all know,
Yep.
and I also know him as a host for panel discussions.
Yes.
And I know at the end of the day he's an independent mind, and he's probably never going to be a full member of Taqaddum, because it's hard to pin this man down.
This is against what he's preaching.
No, but
he's just saying that
going,
people like
but
him need to be in institutions, and he will have great value.
He will be a member on his terms, and I think that's the kind of guy he is. He's an independent mind, and the group, I think, will work for him, as opposed to him working for the group. So you need.
No, I
it's
think
like it's we all
it's
work for Taqaddum and for the country.
It's a two-way channel. Yeah.
Two-way channel.
It's
Fair
like
enough. I tried.
Rawad is not going.
I gave
to work,
all three.
Rawad is not going to work for Taqaddum. He is going to work with Taqaddum for the country.
For the country.
With Taqaddum for the country.
I'm picking my words very carefully. Rawad will work within a political organization, in order to serve the bigger purpose, whether that is Taqaddum or any other party that has very similar social liberal or social democratic ideological views. We'll discuss that later, but whether I was in Taqaddum or not, I'm friends of Taqaddum. So, and I really appreciate working with Laury, Mark, Hussam, and anyone else within Taqaddum or without Taqaddum officially. So we'll set it there, and we'll continue the conversation off the record.
What was his grade in class? Did you?
I think he got an A or a B.
I think
I
it
don't
was an A
minus. Yeah.
Hello.
He skipped like class, like a couple of.
It was election period.
And then he was in the States. I would see him in the States. I'm like, where's Rawad?
Sorry. This is just now.
Last
Yeah,
year.
You're joking.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. In May, during the elections, you were Laury's student?
I think it was the semester before elections. So it was fall
of 2021. Yes.
This country is too small, أول شيء. ثانيا, and I would never it's such a nice bringing things back in a way, like it's circular. You know, you're politically charged. You're well established as an expert and political, and now you're kind of finding your path together. It all makes sense.
It's energy.
No, it's very nice, and I didn't know that. You'd better join Taqaddum.
And I'm giving you my position.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the national coordinator's position.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So where are you going, Laura?
I'll stay around. So it's
Oh.
not that I wouldn't want to stay like the national coordinator forever. That's against our values.
But you're staying
So-
in Taqaddum.
Of course,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will not
okay.
leave Taqaddum. So,
So-
Taqaddum is my third baby. So after Mark and Mark
Yeah.
Kuyuja, my son.
Thank you.
Was she really that invested in Mark?
Mike, my son, and Ara, my other son, and then Taqaddum, and then of course Mark Daw, I love him like my son as well.
I love how Zaven doesn't even make it, you know? It's like, oh, yeah, that guy. Okay, so let's jump into the delicacy of sticking to line 29,
Yes.
even when, I mean, we were together
Yes.
shouting at Elias Bousab 2 nights ago. We
Yes.
were shouting together at him. Elias Henkash was sort of next to us shouting too. We're shouting about the process. So what can you say about holding your terrain even when it's not happening, and whether or not that suits the 13 well?
But because this is like holding on, as you said, to your terrain and values. We knew that there was value in line 29. It was our right. It respected all the international agreements that we had signed. So Lebanon is a signatory to the UNCLOS that really says exactly how to do the methodology and of writing the maritime borders, so of drawing the maritime borders. So therefore, we first of all to respect at least the agreements that we sign as a state, and then it did have like strong foundations in like technical and legal foundations for that line 29. So it was the right approach to take. So it was our right. And then the right approach in negotiations, even to start from that maximalist claim and to have the upper hand in the negotiations with the Israelis. Above that, we had the army that was involved, and that was one important matter, that the army was really, through diplomacy, trying to get our rights against Israel. So they destroyed all of that, and then we ended up where Hezbollah is taking credit for a bad deal, but it's taking credit for a bad deal. So that's why, like the 13, we're very convinced of that, because we had done our work in explaining to them, and there was a popular support for that. So if the president wanted to take that track, he had the popular support. Most of the Lebanese, even today from the Hezbollah community, that Hezbollah supporting line 23, their community is against. They are saying that no, our rights are line 29. So they had the support, the popular support, to really go after line 29 and really stick to line 29 with whatever the circumstance would have been, whatever the implications and the results would have been. So it was the right thing for the MPs, the 13, to stick to that, to say that we MPs, this is how we see it. Line 29 is rightful. We want to fight for it. They asked the government for immediate amendment of Decree 6433. It didn't happen. Then they said, if it doesn't happen, we will send a law and to the parliament. They did that, but it never reached to where it should reach, because we all know that there is a wall called Nabih Berri in the parliament. He passes he puts on agenda what he wants, and he doesn't put what the things that he doesn't want. And third, they said that if things continue in this direction where there is no action, or we're going into the direction of line 23, there will be an investigation that is going to take place, a parliamentary committee to investigate this issue from 2007 till 2022. And this investigation shouldn't be stopped by anyone, because if people are right, let's say Mr. Sanyura is saying that he defended line 23, and today he's saying, you see, line 23 was the right line, you wasted 10 years of our life. So let it be an investigation, let it be clarity to say that, okay, these are the circumstances, these are the results, these are the facts, these are the information. People deserve to know why we are in this complete mess about this maritime border issue. So I think it was the right thing for them to do, and they did it together, but because there was a lot of work that had happened before. Again, that's why guidance, support is important for the 13 on all portfolios and dossiers and issues.
It's my one chance to ask you about this, because we talk, we do talk a lot, but not about this delicate subject. So it's my chance. I spoke to Najat actually 2 weeks ago about it, but I didn't go all the way. So I'll go all the way with you. I think the lines are simply lines. So this not that 29 is God's sort of dictation to Lebanon. And line 23 could be problematic. It's not that line 23 is correct per se. But in terms of jest, and forget Senora aside, the fact that almost 12 years ago, the process had started and it had reached somewhere where, you tell me if I'm wrong, Lebanon and Cyprus had already made terms with each other that allowed something like line 23 to be what made most sense between those two countries. And then you fast forward 12 years later, things that happened in the last 12 years, going towards line 29 would require so many things, including that amendment, which I understood correctly is that you have to file an amendment.
Yes.
And that it's going to be a position where we will never get a deal. And it reminded me, and you tell me if it's not the same, it reminded me of Shaba. Not in Hezbollah's legitimization, not that. More that this is never going to be solved.
Why not that? Why not that? Today, you're getting a bad deal with Hezbollah's support for that bad deal. I'm sorry, this is not just like a fait accompli or something en passant.
Yeah.
No, this is an important issue. Today, Hezbollah decided to use its weapon and its strength on a bad deal because it was in its favor, because it really now has points with the US that they will use it later, because everybody knows that line 23 is a bad deal and we could have had more. So they all decided to kill line 29 and to go and if you want, to ask for less. And when did Hezbollah intervene? With line 23. So today you ended up having a deal, but who got you the deal? According to what they're saying, it's Hezbollah, because Hezbollah at the right moment, he intervened to get a bad deal. So let me tell you.
Yeah.
So if he could have intervened, why didn't he intervene in line 29, which is the rightful line or border for Lebanon? Why didn't he intervene in that? First of all, because Mr. Berri was against it. So the Shia duo comes first for him because he doesn't want to have problems with them, right? So, and then he doesn't want to give the upper hand to the army and saying that the army got us a good deal. So what's the raison d'etre of Hezbollah if the army got us a good deal? So they didn't want to support the army. He decided to support a bad deal. With the bad deal, Mr. Najib Miati is saved, Mr. Berri is saved, and the president is getting what he wants before the end of his mandate, and they're getting all the credit. So who's the winner of the line 23? Hezbollah. No one else. You will not get the benefits of the oil and gas. With a system like that, corrupt, weak institutions, poor governance, you will never get the benefit of oil and gas. So who's the winner of this deal, the bad deal? It's Hezbollah. So whomever killed line 29 isn't bad with Hezbollah. You have to live with that, Yaroni.
I look at it slightly differently. And again, I did not kill any babies. I think whether I was alive or not, this was going to happen. So I don't kill children or anyone. It's that
it's a baby lionfish. Now everybody is saying that we have lionfish.
No, it's actually really trying to understand the timing. It's really about that. It's not that I have no relationship to 23 or 29.
Look, in 2012, we were supposed to get half. We didn't get it. Today, you're getting more than half. You're getting line 23.
More or less, yeah.
It's more than half.
Sorry, more or less line 23. I don't think it is 23.
No, it's line 23, but on the if
eastern
you want
side.
On the no, but even there's
on the shores, it's
right.
like you might take
Slightly more
give
towards.
like the Israelis like a starting point
with
for
those
it.
boys and those. But I'll say the way I see it.
That the boys is, again, it's not just something like en passant. That means that Hezbollah now is securing the safety and security of Israel. You understand?
Okay, I think.
Do you understand the implications of killing line 29?
I think
Today, the one who's going to secure the borders with Israel is Hezbollah. So that is a big issue for them, and they will want to get something out of it. So they're supporting a bad deal, they're securing the safety of Israel, and they want something for that.
So I'll
with the Americans.
I'll say it. Perhaps the flawed way I see it.
Yes.
Perhaps the flawed way. I should have taken this course. Really? No, because
I have a question actually in regards to.
But let me make my point. Then you can get your A+.
I never got that.
You never got. Yeah. Help me, Laury. Help me.
Yes.
Hezbollah can obstruct line 23 and didn't. Hezbollah, if it didn't want line 23 to go through, we would not have this very near deal happening. So Hezbollah's inclination to line 23, I don't think is because the opponents of line 29, all of them, want Hezbollah to be the defense of the country. I think it's just about timing. Line 29 did not seem like it was ever set up to work. Whether it's right or wrong is something else. Meaning, it could still be the right line. Actually, there could be even a line 30.
No. Why wouldn't it work? This is not. You're taking us to the wrong place. Line 29 says the starting point of that line is Ras al Naura, which is our official borders with Palestine, 1923.
Based on
It is our right, and this is our borders. Ras al Naura, very clear where it starts. It's the starting point of line 29 is Ras al Naura. Then according to the methodologies of the UNCLOS that we had signed, we are saying that we do the equidistant la, and then special circumstances, Tachelet.
Yes.
Tachelet is very close to the shores of Israel.
Right, yeah.
And then we decided as Lebanese government, Tachelet shouldn't be taken into consideration because of the disproportionate impact. Okay?
Right.
Because we will lose a lot of the kilometers.
Yeah.
So that's why the government's position when they started, or the negotiating team that was supported and created by the president, was that line 29 is the right line for us, or the border. Starting point, the correct starting point. Tachelet, zero effect, because there is a disproportionate impact, and this is what they went with. Okay? And then, because we were so right in that narrative, in October 2021, on 12 October 2021, a year ago, there was a decision by the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, in the Kenya-Somalia case, where one party was arguing that there is a group of islands very close to the shores. They wanted to give them the full effect because they were close to the shores. ICJ said no, because of that disproportionate impact. Therefore, if you would have taken that precedent, legal precedent from the ICJ, you would put it in Lebanon, then you were rightful in line 29. Even Amos Hochstein had said it on an interview. He said, yes, maybe it's your right, but you have to work with reality, and what you can take, you have nothing, take something. That was the attitude. Therefore, when you are weak, when you are not able, like when you're in a situation where our political class is, they're not allowed even to negotiate national interest issues like the border, because they're so weak, they're so compromised. So line 29 is your rightful line. You're telling me you will not get it. Why? So why it happened that line 23, we had drones flying over the borders? Why you couldn't fly line 29, the drones when we were fighting for line 29? Why? This is a question for Hezbollah and or the community of Hezbollah. Instead of attacking right, left, and center, line 29 was the rightful line. Why didn't they do it? For political reasons, and because they wanted to score points that will help them later on in their agenda with the Americans and with the French. And this is a reality that we have to take it. So the narrative that Hezbollah is defending our oil and gas, Hezbollah is defending national interest, is wrong. They should have defended line 29 and not line 23. They are defending a bad deal. They are defending the security of Israel. They're defending a bad deal, and we will never see the benefits of oil and gas.
So before we get to Rawad's question, I'll ask it in a way and see whether or not what I'm saying adds up properly. Hezbollah has the veto over any line. Meaning that if this was not a good deal right now for their security concerns, we would not have a deal.
Okay.
So let's take that as they can flex their muscle right now if they need to quash this deal, and they haven't.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say that they there's a certain controlling factor they have over any line and any deal, whether it happens or not. In my mind, maybe I'm wrong. 10 years ago, the effort that was being made was not a Hezbollah motivated deal. Wasn't that Hezbollah was whispering about line 23? You should do line 23, that's better.
Yes.
Right. So I saw that as maybe a missed opportunity, maybe, in picking up where the state left off. Meaning going all the way to line 29 could be principled, could be right, and it is maximalist, but that it inevitably leads to a stalled negotiation, regardless.
We were going to war over a bad deal. Line 23 is a bad deal. And we were going to war because of that. We were threatening Israel that we are going to war in 1st of September, mid-September, and now we're saying that, no, yeah, maybe not, because we're getting to a deal. We were going to war for a bad deal. So they were using their weapons, and they were using their escalatory power, and they were using their whatever threatening power to go after a bad deal. You have to ask yourself, why are they doing this?
Hezbollah cannot fight Israel. This is to scare us into submission.
Look, I'm not saying that they wanted to go. My analysis at that time was that they are defending a bad deal, and this is the case. Okay. They were supporting a bad deal. This is a bad deal. Look, you were telling me in 2012 that we were about to get the Hof line, which is less than now, the line 23.
I think no, we were saying that the Hof line was not good enough.
Hof line was
not good enough.
Less than line 23. Okay, it was splitting the 860 square kilometers between Lebanon and
Lebanon,
Israel.
45.
So it was north of line 23. Today you're getting line 23. You're getting all of 860 square kilometers.
Yeah.
They will use it as a victory because we got all the 860 square kilometers. And this is what the Israelis are using against the deal, saying that you gave them everything. Right? So because they gave them everything, we got everything.
The disputed area, according to line 29,
exactly.
is bigger.
We have bigger, so you have to see it that way. And line 23 is already a random line that has no, if you want, foundations, legal foundations or technical foundations. So today what we're trying to say is like,
it has foundation. It's something we negotiated with Cyprus.
It's not. You negotiated. That deal. That line is a random line that was not negotiated with anyone.
It's what we proposed to the UN in 2012. Right?
Yes, because unilaterally we did the deal.
Yeah.
Our deal with Cyprus was like another thing, another map.
Yeah.
Okay, but the idea is like the Israelis use that map and the tri-point, and they use the tri-point, which is line 1, and this is how they went from the starting point that they wanted, which was pushing from Ras al Naura, because they don't want to give up Ras al Naura. For them, it is a military point. Yeah. So today, Lebanon is giving away Ras al Naura, which will have implications on the land. They're trying to say that no, the land is separate from the maritime. But the moment you're not guaranteeing Ras al Naura and you're not claiming it, it will have an implication on the land borders. So the Israelis have pushed north to the land to the Ras al Naura. They stick to a point, and then they went and chose line 1, point 1, which was on the map between Lebanon and Cyprus. That was never ratified. Yeah. Going forward today. So to end this thing, first of all, if this deal is ratified between Lebanon and Israel, that means there should be ratification of the deal between Israel and Cyprus, because that tri-point changes.
Yes.
And that will open the discussions between Lebanon and Cyprus to start the negotiations on finalizing the border, because we don't have maritime borders. And that will have implications on the Syria-Lebanon-Cyprus border. Right. So we'll have to negotiate with the Syrians as well. Yeah. Syrians and Cypriots are looking at the negotiations today. Yeah. The implications of these negotiations, which are far away from any international law methodology, will have implications on that. Can you imagine the Syrians saying to the Lebanese, you with the enemy, you didn't choose the international law, you come and impose on us the international law? We want the same the same deal. Whatever that deal is, whatever the parameters of that deal are. So there is implication of what we're doing today, so that we are going to wait and see. But let me tell you something. Again, an investigation is in the benefit of everyone, because if there are people that had really worked hard in 27 and until 2012, they need to be recognized.
Right.
And if they were mistakes, we need to know as well, okay? Because we cannot continue not having accountability in this country. So that this dossier is very important to open that door. So if people have done good things, they need to be recognized. If they done bad things, we need to know how they did it, etc., and then take another path. So that investigation is very important. At the same time,
that's being pitched by the 13, or
yes,
that's
yes,
okay.
but I'm pushing that as well, because sometimes I feel they forget about that, and I think that's very important. Until the last day of my life, I'll keep on pushing for that if it doesn't happen.
So this
till the end of whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So that needs to happen. It's very important for accountability and for history. We need to document all of these. Like after us, there will be people who will write books on this. So they need to have the right story. Until now, we don't know. Why did Mr. Miati get the study and put it in the drawer? I don't know if he put it in the drawer or he just threw it in the bin.
Let me invite Rawad though to ask this question, because he wanted to ask.
Best, I want to tell you something on this to end. People worked in 2007 according to what they knew.
Right.
Then they built their capacities. People drew the line 2011 or whatever 10 according to what they knew. Then capacities they acquired capacities. So it's not all about like who did the mistake and who needs to be punished, who gave away, who is Amil, who is Midrimin. I don't like these words. At the end of the day, there were people dealing with this portfolio. Sometimes we deal with portfolio that we have no idea with. Like they who send people to Cyprus, they have no idea how to do the delimitation. So there is a capacity problem. There is a mismanagement problem. It's not all about Umala, you're the agent of the Zionist to Midrimin, هذول the big words. Amir Sahyuni, Mutabbi' Midrimin. It's not about that. Few people are in charge, they're in power. They get information, and according to this information, they work. And this is how you need to see it, Yaroni. At that time, these were the data that they had. These were the information that they had. So any advisor, any person that had to do with the portfolio, they had to deal with things that they were given. يعني you're not an expert in that, but if you're the advisor of the prime minister and you were given this information, you work according to this information. You don't go and look for the technicalities. So the problem is with the technical people, and with the technical people that we said don't have the capacities. This is the issue, and this is how we need to see it. At the end of the day, خلصنا بقى. يعني accusing each other of like you're less Lebanese than I am, أنا مطبعة لا أنت مدري مين. خلصنا بقى. It's too much. We are all Lebanese trying to live in this country, trying to have a peaceful life, and then everybody has diversity. That's good. Diversity is good. We want to live in a dictatorship, but we need to manage diversity, and this is like the challenge going forward. Now, with the new president, the new government, with the MPs that we have, the 13 MPs, we need to push for this new social contract, this new social system that we need to create, and political system. We cannot keep on going this way. Hezbollah needs to understand they are Lebanese living with other Lebanese. They're not living with enemies in the country. Now they're taking us to a place where there is Hezbollah and allies and the enemy on the other side. We are all Lebanese. We're not enemies. Hezbollah is not my enemy. I'm not his enemy. We have disagreements that we need to manage. If I'm with line 29, doesn't mean that I work for the Israelis or the Americans.
I will save this Hezbollah. I'll leave it at the end, because we can end on something which is important, obviously. But I want to hear this question.
I think she already answered the question.
Oh, she answered it.
Couple of minutes, but
okay.
I can add on to what you already answered it very well.
Which was what?
It was regarding the technicalities and what went wrong initially in the first place, and whether line 29 could have had any added value since after all those mistakes. You already answered it very well. I think I'm going to add on to something that she just said, which is this, this enemy-like approach with everyone in the country. I mean, even, coming from the south and coming from this environment in particular, I mean, Hezbollah supporters, they're our neighbors, they're our cousins, they're they're people in our villages. They're people we interact with on everyday basis. And coming from this background and from the South, there's always this approach that, especially within, it's relevant in Hezbollah's community, and it's relevant in Hezbollah's opponents and opposition, that they're people who we cannot live with, and the other people say that they're people who they're not Lebanese enough, and they're checking their bloodstream every other day, which is obviously not the case. And here I would emphasize on one thing, that yes, we really need to understand how we're dealing with each other in this country. I mean, what Hezbollah tries to do every other day is that everyone who opposes me is an Israeli or an American agent. And on the other side, everyone who opposes Hezbollah claims that everyone who supports Hezbollah is not Lebanese enough. And this just dilemma, it's so hectic and so fragile in its sense. I mean, this is not really the case. Not everyone who supports Hezbollah for one reason or another is not Lebanese enough. And not everyone who opposes Hezbollah is an American or a Zionist agent. And I mean, if we look at the daily lives of people, especially in the South in particular, it's not the case. I mean, we have people who are neighbors and who have been having opposing political views for years and years. I mean, yes, today Hezbollah is a strong political actor. 20 years ago, it was not the case. 20 years later, it may be the case and it may not be the case. But the end point of the story is that we are doomed to live with each other in this country, be it people with opposing political views from the same sect, or be it people of the same views in different sects, and be it different sects all in all. So
I will expand on this.
This is why I would really indulge on the need of a new social pact in the country, because this chaos that we have been living, and especially post October 17 till now, because before, I mean, I think, the political discussions were kind of handled one way or another, but this chaos we've been living ever since the system broke in the moment of October 17 has been so burdensome.
Baabda. We could see now months on end without a president. There is a real chance that we're going to have no president. Walk me through the thought process of choosing somebody that none of us knew existed, whether or not this really was the right course. I thought there was optimism in the room. Actually, I spoke to maybe half of the 13 after they came down from Ma'arab. And I really sensed that there was something happening. A process was being used. And then out of nowhere, it's gone. So why choose a name that is out of sync? And why really go against the process? And where's the blame? Is it with the 13? Is it with the Lebanese forces? Is it with Michel Mawad? Is he so toxic that the 13 can't accept him? And why is he that toxic? This doesn't really sit well with me, because I think that's a missed opportunity. And that for me is maturity. You don't need to be so Puritan with Baabda. So I'll start with you, Laury.
Yes. Okay. First of all, Ma'arab needs to understand they need to be more modest.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay.
That's very important, because this condescending attitude of Ma'arab is not helping. Okay, this is one. And then you need to understand that today there is that tendency of saying that the issue is only Hezbollah, and we need to make sure that we're not getting a president that is pro-Hezbollah, which is not the same understanding with the MPs, the 13 MPs. We do have a different understanding of the situation. We went to the streets to demonstrate against the system that has been placed since 1990 that had led to this collapse and to this failure of the state. So therefore, Hezbollah is a very important problem, but you have the other problem, which is corruption and monopoly, etc., state corruption. So these two cannot force us now to play their game when it comes to Baabda. So this was the position of the 13. Hezbollah made a good point saying that I'm voting white, blank, but I have 63 people, so I still have two that I can get them very easy, and then I can choose my president. They didn't do that. They were kind of signaling that they are open for discussion because they cannot handle the failure on their shoulders. The next president will be the one that will sign on the death of the republic. So they don't want to take that responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay? So the other
That's
camp...
well said. Yeah.
So the other camp, the Lebanese forces, and with them at one point in time, Sami Jmail, etc., they decided...
I didn't include them because the numbers really are in the...
So they chose Michel Mouawad, very good choice for someone to fight Hezbollah. Great choice. If I were like my fight was Hezbollah only, I would have chosen Michel Mouawad, definitely. The best person to fight Hezbollah. My choice, my battle is not against Hezbollah, it's against the system. Therefore, I had to choose someone that fits into that. Okay?
You see Michel Mouawad as the fighter against Hezbollah. For me, I think of him as, by default, incapable of challenging them even remotely, whether he's in Baabda or out of Baabda. I think of him as shackled to begin with. The fact is, he comes from an earlier family. The fact is, there's the name, the legacy, and that he's endorsed by the Uwait and Kataib and the like. But Michel Mouawad fighting Hezbollah? I mean, he will have no capacity to fight Hezbollah.
He's positioning himself as the president who is
going to oppose the plan of Hezbollah.
So
okay?
This is how he is positioning himself,
Yeah.
and this is how the parties which are endorsing him are positioning themselves.
Exactly.
But that is too toxic for the 13. That's because he's positioning himself that way. That's the problematic.
Because we have bigger issues than just focusing on Hezbollah. Today, it's not about this duality, Hezbollah against Hezbollah, pro-Hezbollah against Hezbollah. This is not the situation. It is a failed state.
Okay,
we have to do more than that.
I have no... sorry, I will interrupt you, Laury. I want to hear.
Yalla.
I have no relationship to Salim Eddi. I don't know. Or the other guy that came and went.
Okay.
What was his name?
Salah Hnain.
Salah Hnain. I don't know these people. Most of us didn't know them. But hold on. Putting an outsider, whether he's the son of a previous minister or not, somebody we don't know, who's mostly into gems, or he has a mineral museum.
The museum, yes, he has many.
He has an IT
company. He has one of the big...
It's one of the best
companies that has employed Lebanese, that had supported Lebanon.
Living in France, is that right? And employs many people. And putting him in Baabda, it doesn't make sense.
Look, I'm going to be very, very frank on something. I think
you need a political name.
I think the presidential session was originally just a showcase of muscles for all the blocs and for positioning themselves for negotiations.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Given the fact that this session in the first place was not meant to elect any president, the fact that there was no concrete name by anyone is one thing to note.
Yeah.
I personally believe that the Lebanese forces and the Kataib and Sami Jmail and everyone else, they know for a fact that Michel Mouawad is not someone who can make it to Baabda in the next period.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
I think they were showcasing where they're starting to negotiate. They're starting to negotiate with a president who is opposing to Hezbollah, or at least that's how he positioned himself, and that's how how others positioned him as well.
Yeah.
The others have positioned themselves as a concrete bloc that's ready to negotiate on something else.
Yeah.
And I think the 13 MPs, disregarding if Salim Eddi was a great naming choice or not, we can discuss that later. With the positioning they did, I personally have many comments on many actions they've taken before.
They meaning the Lebanese forces, not the 13.
No, I'm talking about
the
the 13.
Number 13.
The 13,
Oh, yeah.
I have many comments on
okay.
positions they've taken and on stances they've taken over the past couple of months.
Yeah.
But on that thing in particular, I think they did the right choice by differentiating themselves from the March 14 camp, who set their priority as we want a president who is opposing Hezbollah. But I think the president that we need and the president that the people need is not a president who only wants to oppose Hezbollah.
So can I just? I'll
So
interrupt
we agree
again.
on that.
I want to interrupt again. Hold on. I'm sorry, Laurie. I have to interrupt here.
Interrupt.
Yeah,
We
I'm
need
sorry.
to discuss about that.
We were going to get into this.
What
point.
president we want?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go down this road. Let's say. Did you say they need to get off their mod? How did you frame Lebanese forces?
They need to be more modest.
More modest.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything to naming a political name from the 13 that is, I mean, is it just an absolute no? Because for me, still, Baabda is not where civil society aspirations are. Baabda is a symbol. It's always been a symbol. And a family name makes sense there. Whether or not that family name does the right thing or the wrong thing is something else. But it seems so unlikely to me that short of a dynastic name, which may not appeal to me or you, or I don't care necessarily about Azgharta family preserving its name in Baabda. It's not that. It's that the alternative in recent history is the army. And you either get an army commander or you get a familiar name. And for me, if it's going to be a familiar name, I don't want it to be Michel Aoun's nephew or Sleiman Frangieh or the usual suspects that always lurk in the background, and we know where they stand.
Okay.
So hold on. Michel Maouad to me is not just anti-Hezbollah.
Michel Maouad can make it to Baabda.
No, he can't.
Okay.
So this is where the 13. I'm curious, really.
Yes.
Why naming Salim Adde was a move taken by the 13.
I'll tell
If-
you.
if-
Can I just
ahead.
Yeah.
say, and then I'll let you, because I like your ideas. So I'm learning from you,
لا يا
and
عم.
I get inspired by you.
School of Rawad Taha.
Yes. So, and this is very inspiring for me. On 13 October, I'll turn 47. This guy is a young guy. He is the future. And I want my son to learn from him, inspired by his mother, but learn from the young generation that is closer to him. And this is very important. This evolution, this is the evolution. I cannot stay there for long, forever, and then inject all my my disappointments, my bad choices, etc., on the next generation. So it is important
It's a
for my
cumulative
son.
process.
Exactly, it's important for. I'm sure, like Rawad has taken 0.1% from me, and then he is now elaborating his own views. And then I would like my son to get inspired by people like him. And this is how we build a country. To really do some real reforms, we need to open up this position to all Christians and start with Armenians, because now we're like a small community. We need to feel part of this country.
It's
We
really
should
it's
be
like
open to
Michel Maouad. Two good
the
people.
Armenians.
Two good people in my mind are Michel Maouad and Ziad Baroud.
Look, let me
They're
tell you,
both
to
good
go
people.
back.
They're both good people. Ziad Baroud has absolutely no capabilities when it comes to Hezbollah. He will stay silent the whole time. He will reach Baabda as a shackled leader without any curiosity or ability to touch that problem. Michel Maouad will face the same.
But Michel Maouad has no chance of reaching Baabda.
He has no chance of reaching, but he faces the same exact situation. For me, though, it's about representing Lebanon. It's not about just the...
No, it's, let me tell you. So to finish with Salim Adde and then move on to who should represent Lebanon.
Yeah.
So Salim Adde was one among many that we've been discussing among the 13. So who could be the next president? If we were in a different country and in a normal country, Salim Adde is the right profile. The guy has all the qualities to be a president of the republic. He has done so much for education. He has done so much for culture. He has done so much for the economy. He's been employing so much Lebanese in his companies, etc. So he is a really good person.
Yes.
Okay? So because we're not in a normal country, we have other criteria to choosing it. But it doesn't mean that if in the first round we have decided on Salim Adde that this is like, oh my God, what did they have done?
This is a positioning.
Exactly. Because as Rawad said, and I remember very well because I was in the room when Mark was talking to the media, and this is exactly what he was saying, what exactly Rawad was saying. The first round was to position themselves, and it was like the first round of negotiations. What are our positions? So for the 13, it was like we're not in the pocket of Sami Jaja,
Right, yeah.
and we're not in the camp of Hezbollah. So we have a different approach that needs to be respected. And plus, don't forget that we had a presidential initiative. We had done a paper exploring and looking at what are the situation now, and what are the challenges for the future, and what could be the profile of the president. We did the outreach to others. We heard everyone. We heard all the parties what they wanted and what was their red line or what they were open for. And then this was the outcome for us at that moment.
But what is-
we shouldn't be
what-
judged on that.
No,
On the contrary, we did the distinction.
Yeah.
And now today in
Now
the
we
parliament,
negotiate.
exactly.
But what happened
three
to this?
parts
What
in
happened to the
negotiation.
positivity of that? What felt like there was something happening, the coming to terms in the
Okay.
mountain. What happened to that?
I'll talk on that in particular.
Yeah.
Because I think I have a certain understanding of what's going on. Today, the political reality in the country is very explicit to everyone. Hezbollah has a blocking third, so you can't get someone into Baabda who opposes Hezbollah. Those who oppose Hezbollah have a blocking third, so you can't get a Hezbollah candidate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So today, if we're talking about a reasonable profile that has the chance of getting to Baabda, is someone who's non-partisan, unless they want to have a vacancy in the presidential palace for the next couple of years. That's something else.
Yeah.
What happened was that the MPs have toured around all the parliamentary blocks and all other parties with this presidential initiative. It's very long. It could have been shorter as a start.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least as an initiative, they toured and they visited all parliamentary members, and everyone agreed that their initiative is right because we don't want to be at a presidential vacancy, and we all know the balance of power in the country, and the only person who's going to actually make it to Baabda before we go into a vacancy is someone who is non-partisan and who's ready to be leading on a reform mission, if I may say. With all respect to Michel Mawad, who I personally have a good connection with, and to other people in his party, Michel Mawad does not have a chance because simply Hezbollah has a blocking third to stop him. And basically what March 14 and the Lebanese forces and other allies did is that they positioned themselves to start the negotiation. And I think that the 13 MPs did the right decision by positioning themselves with a non-partisan candidate, with someone who has a good profile, and with someone who can lead on reform. And it's not personal about Iddi. I think they all know for a fact that Iddi is not going to make it to the presidential palace, and he was not really a candidate to collect votes for.
I'm thinking more
it.
in something like just some.
It's just a positioning.
No, but it's more like in. I agree with you, Laury. I agree with you. Had things been better in this country, you don't need to worry about communal anxiety. You'd want somebody like Salim Iddi, but given where we are, it just felt like some communal legitimacy was appropriate. And maybe the fact is they're all family names running, the ones that have a chance and don't. And then at the end of the day, you know that it's not going to be Tracy Shamon, wala Michel Mawad, wala probably not Stayman Franji or Gibran Bassil or whoever. It ends up going back to the army. And that for me is not a good situation. That's a continuation.
Okay. I tell you something on that. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
On this issue of going back to the army and the chief of the army, that is because there's a problem in the system. And that ends up at the end of the day, like the best choice to avoid a vacuum is the chief of the army. This is what we had since Lies Lahraoui. After Lies Lahraoui, we only had the chief of armies, with the exception of Michel Aoun, who wasn't the chief of army, but he is from the army. So we
he
cannot.
He was the chief of army.
Yeah, I'm saying that not acting. Not acting
yes,
like
yes,
that,
yes,
but
right,
he was.
Right, yeah.
So there is a problem in this system.
Yes,
and we need to tackle that problem. That's why the president that has to come to Baabda has to be able to deal with that problem. We have reforms first because this is like the short term now, because the country is failing. Poverty rate is 80%, or maybe now it's like more than that because we're not taking any action. No action is the strategy of Najib Miati and co. So the president that has to come, reforms, yes. So he has to have like really a harmony with the team that has to work with him, from the prime minister and co, and to work on that social contract and the political social and the political system. We need to look. We've been in this system since 1990 with the Ta'if. No one is saying we want a new Ta'if. We need to improve the Ta'if. Okay, what worked, what didn't work, what would they apply, what wouldn't apply, and what's next? So we need to do that. We need to do that exercise. And we need to do that exercise while we are in peace. We shouldn't do it while we are at war. Do we want to go to the place where we are at war and then decide, oh my God, they're at war, so let's take them to I don't know which village in which country to do that exercise? Now we need to do it so that the president that has to be appointed needs to work on that. He has to be able to talk to Hezbollah, to Gibran Basir, to Mark Dow, to Michel Mawad, to Sami Jmail, to Nabil Badr, to I don't know what, to be able to put this thing on track and to work on this new political system that we need. We cannot continue this way. So if we're not getting there...
The person you're describing is Joseph Aoun. And the reason Michel Mawad, to me, even though I have a similar relationship that you have to him, the reason that I don't like that kind of person, I think, is the same reason you guys don't want him in Baabda too. I think there are better qualified Lebanese to fill all these institutions.
It's not about qualification, it's about the system.
Sorry.
Because we're blocked in the system, because we're not dealing with the system blockage, we're getting at the end of the day the same profile.
I apologize.
The chief of army, everyone is okay with, and it's not about qualification. He's a good person.
I mean, there's 1.2 million Maronites in the country. Fucking hell, can't we get someone who's good into the presidential palace?
I apologize. With all respect to Michel Mawad, what I meant really is that Salim Iddi is as qualified, if not more. So the qualifications are important. I'm not saying anything. It's more that the kind of personality that you're referring to is the head of the army. And the head of the army, for me, is paralysis. I'd rather have, actually, a communally legitimate. He's not going to be confrontational. He can't be. But somebody who at least speaks the right language in Baabda. And the closest person, given the current crop, is Michel Mawad.
Michel Mawad is never going to make it to Baabda. This is the storyline to start with.
So we're going back to either it's Hezbollah's choice or the army.
Okay, if it's Hezbollah's choice of the army, then my position, myself, is that we as at least the alternative opposition, we should meddle out of that game and not play a role in picking a candidate between Hezbollah and an army general. Not with all my respect to the army general, but I think we need a civilian to be in the Baabda palace.
So the
to lead the reform.
But let me tell you something. No, it's not that. It's either Hezbollah's choice or the chief of army. Exactly. Today, Hezbollah could have made it. They made a point to say that we're voting blank, because they're opening the discussions and they're open to negotiations. Why? Because they cannot handle a president pro-Hezbollah like Michel Aoun, like that was like really, we know that Michel Aoun was supported from the beginning, from day one by Hezbollah till he was in Baabda. They never changed. They've never changed. There was a deal that Michel Aoun will become the president.
Their choice could be Ziad Baroud, as long as Ziad Baroud doesn't talk.
I'm just saying that today we need to look at this space where Hezbollah feels that they cannot handle the collapse of the country with a president that they have chosen and they pushed for. So that gives us the opportunity to play that game and go and negotiate for a president that we think could be good for us, could be good for the 14th March, and could be good for the 8th of March. And then it would be good for the country, because we need to work, the three of us, to make this country work.
This will tie into...
we cannot continue with the disconnection that exists
with this vertical polarization that's happening in the country.
This polarization is not going to anywhere.
This will tie into the Serail, and we'll wrap it up on the most important subject. I don't want civil society to get burned by Hezbollah. I don't want good people to not do anything from all institutions about this problem, and give the seed, everything that happened in the last 3 years or even the last 17 years.
Can I comment on something before you move on with that idea?
Yes, sir.
You said one important statement,
Yeah.
which is you don't want the civil society or the alternative opposition to be burned by Hezbollah.
Yeah.
But there's also a risk that this alternative opposition can get burned by the traditional opposition, and it's as dangerous as both. So, and I think this
Ziad Baroud is more effective outside than he is in Baabda. The moment he becomes president, this is, I think, the worst. This is the worst outcome for civil society, to have a shackled, very gentle, very decent man who's going to say nothing and do nothing about what is a huge problem in this country.
Okay, but let me rephrase it in some other
Michel
way.
Mawad is slightly less handcuffed.
Okay, but then again,
Slightly less.
Then again, going back to the first equation that we were talking
And
about,
he's
the
renamed-
reality.
But
He's
what is
also-
it that you're expecting from the
Very
president?
exactly.
You
Yes,
tell me.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so
You tell me. Yeah.
here's my analogy. Michel Mawad has something which is, he has legacy behind him. He has the traditional backing of enough of this community. And you're right, he's not going to make it. But I would rather have that kind of person representing this country now.
But he's not gonna make it.
But I
That's
know
the whole point. You started with that. No president is gonna make it into
So
Baabda
then I'm choosing
with the veto
between.
of Hezbollah.
It's not Ziad Baroud, it's someone like him. It's either Ziad Baroud or Joseph Aoun.
No,
That's the choice.
Good. Look, you have to see the improvement that is happening, the evolution. We had Michel Sleiman, who opposed, at the end, he was opposing Hezbollah, and that's why they're just
On his
like,
last 2 weeks of presidency, he started talking.
no more
On
than
his-
2 weeks.
2 months?
More
on his
than
way
2
out.
weeks.
On his way out.
Okay, so then we had like the president Michel Aoun, and now today we're open to have someone that is not completely in the camp of Hezbollah. Don't you take that chance? Don't you see it as an opportunity for us?
Somebody-
And don't you see it as a direct result of the revolution of the 17th October? Today, Hezbollah, the moment that they opened up,
No, what I see, Laurie, instead is a return to October 16, 2019, where you have shackled leaders and Hezbollah is left alone. The IMF deal happens. You get somebody like Amr Bisat becomes the prime minister, right? Somebody like him, an IMF guy, becomes prime minister. Jihad Azoud becomes president, a World Bank IMF guy. You get an IMF deal. Hezbollah is left alone. And we sit in paralysis.
but again,
And we go back to October 16. We don't go back to
Again,
October.
This was
we
not the
cannot,
case on
you
October
cannot.
16.
You cannot. You
There's no
have
going
two
back to
issues. You have two issues. You have the IMF, and you have the
The social contract.
political reform that has to happen. Today we're focused on the economic reform, but there is a political reform that needs to happen.
This-
To have the political reform, you cannot have someone that is not able to
talk with
talk to
every-
Hezbollah.
So let's go here. From Baabda to Serail.
Hezbollah is a problem. You have to talk to solve the problem. They will not disappear. These are Lebanese that have a foreign agenda, very dangerous, because as Lebanese entity, as a Lebanese political party, they have a foreign agenda. They said it. I'm not saying it. They said it. So you need to tackle that issue, because today I don't like that we are going into the direction of Iran and being a mumena'a country. I don't like that.
we will
I need
leave-
to solve that problem.
We'll leave Iran and Hezbollah
So I have
to the
to
end.
talk to Hezbollah and to talk to Iran to solve this problem.
We'll leave that to the end. Let me just get into the Serail way. Is it fair to say that Nawaf Salam, knowing his limitations, knowing his previous political career, knowing his legacy and his heritage and his family tradition, all that, is it fair to say now it was a mistake not to fully endorse this person? That it was a strategic blunder to have some within the 13.
That your friends, the Lebanese forces didn't
My
endorse him.
friends.
Yes.
I'm talking about
So,
us.
No, because you were saying that how come you didn't endorse Michel Mawad and you didn't do.
I'm talking
you
about
didn't
both.
do-
No,
yeah.
I mean, today-
No.
Why did no? Look, we endorsed
My friends, the
yes.
Lebanese. I'm going to take that from you.
Yes, so we did endorse Nawaf Salam. We ended up like with discussions
No,
within
I'm
the
talking
MPs.
about-
No, I'm
I'm
just saying
talking about-
to you.
He's talking
We-
about the 13 altogether.
I'm talking
But
about.
I'm telling you, the 13, we ended up like having one
One
or
or
two.
two.
Three.
Halima and Cynthia.
Five,
No?
three,
Yesterday.
and
Okay.
yes, Ijradi. Okay, so these are 10 out of 13. They were able to go there and put his name. Okay, so And then who didn't support that announcement? The
Very
Lebanese forces.
No.
Why is that? Because they weren't leading on the name. They were like, but he didn't talk to us. Okay, so pick up the phone and talk to the guy. Understand what he wants. They didn't do that. Okay?
I'm not. Forget the. No. I agree with you. I agree with
but
you.
These are important.
No,
these
what
are
I'm saying,
important
what I'm saying
actions
is, I'm going back
about like the division that is happening in the country.
Yeah.
We need. It is very clear that the 13
I guess what I'm
are
trying
not
to
in the
say-
pocket of
Exactly.
the 14 March and not in the pocket
that the
of the 8th of March.
And the political debate is not a vertical, polarized
Exactly.
debate only regarding Hezbollah.
Exactly.
You can oppose Hezbollah in terms of issues about sovereignty, issues about foreign relations, but at instances, I will not be afraid to say that I may at some point in parliament agree with Hezbollah on something that I disagree with the Lebanese forces on, and vice versa. And this needs to be very clear to everyone.
It's my mistake for not explaining. I meant more that the Puritans that we were talking about earlier found problems with Nawaf Islam. For me, Nawaf Islam is going to be as capable as somebody like Ziad Baroud. There's going to be built-in limitations. I just didn't know why that name was not fully endorsed by the 13. I completely agree with you,
13
Lawyer.
10 out of 13 is endorsement.
Oh, okay. So 10 out of 13 is endorsement.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Fine. Okay.
But this was
Yeah.
the name that we put. We ended up going
Fair
to
enough.
the president and
Yeah.
we gave that name and he got
So-
out of the 13, 10
Okay.
nominated.
Okay.
Where are the others? Why did the others
Fair
supported?
enough. So-
You had like how many? 18, 17 Lebanese forces MPs. Why didn't you do
She
that?
points at me.
Yes, so now I see you that as the Lebanese forces fan.
Where's my membership?
You have to ask Sami Jaja for it. I can give you the Taqaddum Boutique Hotel.
I'll take Boutique Hotel before I take them. Actually, you know what? I'll take neither for now. I guess what I just don't know why.
I think
it's,
the 13 MPs are suffering the most because they get the lashes from Hezbollah and the lashes from
Of
the Lebanese
course.
forces
Yeah.
And the lashes from
everyone,
Roni.
and the lashes from
me,
Roni.
I gave this group
I think-
the biggest benefit of the doubt. So
I think-
hold on.
I
Wait,
think
wait. I know it's
we
my
need,
time.
we need to let those
No.
13
No,
MPs breathe.
This is my
get to
time.
know each other.
Before we
get
wrap
to
it up,
agree and get to work.
Before we wrap it
Yes.
up, I'm going to say something I never said this way. I've given the benefit of the doubt to the 13 and more for the last 3 years. Actually, when no one was talking to Mintashrin, I was talking to Mintashrin. I did so many episodes about Mintashrin. Kitle Watani was never going to win wala seat. I made sure they all got exposure. Taqaddum, Mark Daou was one of my first episodes in October 17. I gave many people that I don't like in
That's
October
okay.
17, including people that you know that are very difficult to speak with, that get angry, that smash tables and they stand up. They have a following. I listen to them. I sat here. Shad Ghussan, Shaban, Nahas, even. I include them in this October 17 moment. I tried reaching out to Cynthia Zarazir. She plays hard to get. She canceled 5 times. Halima Kakour, I'm sorry. I don't think I agree with most of what she says. She keeps saying Hezbollah is not the issue. I think it is. But I would talk to her. Waddah Sadiq, Ibrahim Naimni. Who else? I mean,
We know the great job.
no,
that
no,
you
but
do.
hold on. But
appreciate the
no,
job
no,
that
no.
you're doing.
I sit in every launch party. I listen to Wasif Harake say things that made no sense to me. Marsad, Mada, Secular Society, AUB clubs that make no sense to me. I listened, I attended, but I also did go to Lebanese forces events. I went to Kataib once too.
Yes.
And I wanted to listen to anyone that's talking about the problem. I did not go to the FPM rallies. I did not go to Harakat Amal launch
Why?
parties. I didn't
Why?
go to SSNP boutique rallies in
But
Hamra.
we need to work on a social contract with everyone.
Hold on. The reason I didn't go to those select groups is because they stand on the wrong side of history. And the reason I don't go to Hezbollah for inspiration is a very clear thing to me. But short of that group, I do want to know what people are saying. And we can wrap it up with Hezbollah. Okay, so this is an
That's-
episode in itself.
So
But
let's not
Just
be
remember
presidential
that
MPs.
the Lebanese forces went into a deal with Michel Aoun and they brought him to Baabda.
I am not a Lebanese forces member.
I know, but you
I
are
promise
like,
you I'm not.
I know you're not. I know. you're not. But I'm just saying, today
And
they want.
I voted for Camille Mourani.
كتير منيح.
The Ashraf Rifi was running in Tripoli.
إيه.
But
His
he voted
list.
for Camille
I voted
Mourani.
for Camille
طب
Mourani.
I have no doubt.
No, the wait list was in front of me. I voted for Kitley and Co. Some of them are crazy people on
You
that
got
list.
Rami Sanj into parliament. That's a good thing.
I didn't even know it was him when I was talking to him the other day. I'm like, oh, I voted for you.
إيه شوفت
And he's
كيف؟
like, you did?
Did you
Yes.
did you bring him to your program?
No, but I got his card. He's a
Tell me.
dentist.
I don't
never
know.
actually.
Or I think he is. I had to
I
double
mean,
check.
there's
on
a
that.
lot of people who got into parliament.
Yeah, orthodontist,
Suddenly,
I
so-
think. Anyway, but let's.
But he seems like a very good guy.
He seems like a lovely guy, and my heart is with this crowd. But I am not absolutist, Laury. I will listen to what the Lebanese forces are saying. Because unlike you, and maybe unlike you, I don't have a problem with March 14. You do. You do maybe too. I don't.
Of course I do.
I don't. What I see is a curtailed movement destroyed individually and politically and emotionally, all of the above,
I agree.
by Hezbollah. October 17 is faced with
No,
the
by
same...
themselves.
But they shot themselves in the foot.
By themselves. I'm sorry.
March
I'm
14
sorry.
was a great moment for building
We
a national...
we believed in them. We were on the streets. We were at the Cedars
not-
Revolution
yes,
on the
not-
streets.
not-
We were.
Wait, sorry, sorry.
We're
He
not
was
the-
a baby.
We're
I was
not the ones.
younger,
We're not the
older.
ones who turned March 14 into a bunch of sectarian parties that only cared about their own share of the
Habibi
pie.
Rawad Laury.
We're not the ones who were part of March 14 and brought Michel Aoun into presidency.
I will-
We're not the ones who
Yeah.
were in March 14 and got all the commission on all the big and mega deals.
We will...
So,
this deserves another episode.
Yeah.
But what I will just do is try to curtail it, because that's the existential debate. There's no suicide happening. There's murder. And the people that you hate are the same ones I hate. The thugs of March 14 are the ones that are still around. The names that have survived, the names that have survived are the
What
ones that
about
worked
people?
with Hezbollah. And I agree with you. You don't want to do deals with that team, which is why, yes, when you need to stand up, you stand up. I have nothing against working against the Lebanese forces when it's the right cause. On the contrary, and I don't care. Actually, the Lebanese forces, to me, is the least appealing in terms of opposition. They're narrow-minded, they're sectarian, they have a very bloody past. But to me, they also are saying some things that are making sense. And I don't think they're the bad guys right now. And that's my problem, is that March 14 is not the crowd that you have to deal with right now. March 14 is the October 7th.
but we didn't say otherwise.
Wait, hold on.
قول.
What you're facing, what we're all facing with right now is October 17. Trying to do the right thing. And it's very easy to fall into the same hole March 14 fell in. Meaning you end up with what you were saying, which I disagree with you. Just talk to Hezbollah. That's what March 14 did. 17 years later, this is what you have. A group that doesn't talk. It gets what it needs to survive. That's violence. So, talking to Hezbollah from Baabda is the dumbest strategy for Lebanon. That's been done.
No. Can I tell you something?
What's your solution? Confrontation?
No, not
Before that,
confrontation,
no,
not
no.
confrontation.
It's
No.
not the same situation.
Yeah.
Today, we have a total collapse of the country.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the same thing. So today, that is a very important factor to take into consideration and to deal with.
Absolutely.
Okay? So at the moment where Hezbollah is at the peak of its power,
Yeah.
the country is at the lowest of the point, and Hezbollah is not daring to take control of the country. They don't want to take the responsibility. They cannot do it. You need to use that as an opportunity to impose something and not to go on the deals that had been made between the Lebanese forces and Michel Aoun. On a different kind of deal, not on I want in the public sector 50% of the people will be from Lebanese forces, the 50 other Christian will be from the FPM. So this is how you have to see
A
it.
deal that gets you a new social contract.
Let's go there. Let's end it here. Let's end it
Who?
here.
He is the
Let's
new
end it
social
here.
contract.
Let's
He's the
end it-
younger
let's
generation.
end it here. You are the younger generation. And you're not a dinosaur,
To be. I'm a dinosaur to be close.
but you're closer to me in age than to Rawad. I'm 41. You're 47? Rawad, you're
October
20,
13,
I
I'll be
don't announce
47.
my age at any particular instance.
between 20 and 30, let's say.
We can go with that range.
An AUB student, you're early mid-20s, it's fine. You're young enough to see a better future, I think, than both of us. I think you should. Actually, at your age, you should see change. You should want it. But I don't think we're going to ever have a new social pact in Lebanon. We're a sectarian country. You're always going to be Shia. Even when you're an atheist, you'll be Shia.
I didn't specify that I'm an atheist, by the way.
You can be super religious or not religious. You will be Shia against your will. You, my friend, I
You
don't
will
think
always be
I don't
an
think of Armenia. When I think of you, I think of
course.
Laury.
Of course.
And I
You
think
shouldn't
of
be
oil.
thinking
Shouldn't
of
be thinking of
Armenia.
Armenia.
I think of oil, gas, and
Thank you.
So
I love that.
Why
Wait,
should this
hold
country
on,
be
hold on.
sectarian?
No,
Exactly.
wait, hold on. And I know Zaven is not Armenia. Zaven is a media figure who I like, and he's fun. I don't think of Armenia, wala Armenian, wala Orthodox or Catholic. Doesn't. And I never woke up in the morning feeling Sunni. ولا مرة. أنا قلت خلاص أنا اليوم تبيني. حأرجع تبيني. And no, ولا مرة حسيت حالي مسلم. Forget Sunnah, forget Shia, ولا مسلم.
طبيعي بحب سمير جعجع.
ما بحب سمير.
هو وسارة عساف لازم يعملوا كلاب.
Oh God! No, I did an episode with her. No, she likes Samir Jaja. She
You
made
like me انت تريدها. ليه ما فينا نزعلهم؟
عن جد خلص انت
سارة.
حنطلع من الحلقة اليوم ما بنحكي مع
Sarah is much closer to them. She may be a member of
We
them.
don't,
I don't know.
That's
I don't
much
know.
I don't know.
I don't know. But I
حد
عن جد كان.
no. But wait.
نعلقها مع سارة عملت لي عيد الجمعة كمان.
انت كان عيدك كمان جوجو.
لا عيد الجمعة.
She's a friend. She'll like this.
عيد.
وهي وصت على الكيك كمان.
عيدك بعد يومين.
ايه
ايه انا عيدي ب 13.
Happy
انا
birthday.
بعشرة.
انا 13.
هاي فيك تحطها.
10 اكتوبر 13 اكتوبر.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
ليبراز.
ايه
Makes
شفت كيف؟
sense. It all makes sense now.
عن جد. So
So
Sarah Asif is still Sunni even when she's not. And I'm Sunni even when I'm not. You're
this
not.
is your generation.
No. This is the lost cause, which is forget it. You're never going to have a secular Lebanon. It's never going to happen. Mark my words. You will never see a secular Lebanon. What you will see, which I think you hinted at earlier, is reform. One day, you'll see sectarian reform in this country. Well, maybe one day, somebody like Laury could actually enter Baabda because it makes no sense that you're not allowed to because of this old way of governing. Laury should be in Baabda. Maybe you should be too. وبركي أنا put my cross on, take it off, put my flag.
the مشطوب cross.
Mashtub cross, since I'm in that camp now. Hey, I go up as the Sunni Maronite of Baabda. I think all of us deserve access to every institution.
Of
But
course.
Okay.
Of
But-
course.
Then this
but
all
We
falls
agree
in
on that.
line.
yes, but at the end of our lives, we will still be in a sectarian Lebanon. That's not going away.
Okay.
Sectarian
well,
Lebanon is
wait,
fine
hold
as
on.
long as we
that-
can all be at one point
Functioning.
Lebanese and functioning
So
in
then-
institutions.
yeah, I agree, but
I
then-
don't care
then
like
this
what
is-
institution
No,
he
no.
has.
This is what I'm talking about. Appeal that I thought maybe October 17 suffered from, which is secularism. The way we talk about it
Okay.
does not resonate in this country.
Can I plunge in?
Sectarianism does. I think sectarian reform and aspects of secularism is the way forward for Lebanon. I think that's the social pact.
مش sectarian reform. It's how the political class is using sect for their own benefit and to increase control and corruption.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's not my problem. Is not that I'm like as part of my identity is my religious identity, but that shouldn't say that what role I should play in the country. And this is the problem today.
Or it shouldn't definitely wash you with any certain political ideology. It's as simple as that. But allow me to, and give me a couple of minutes over here.
Sure. We'll end it on this note, because I think it's a nice way to end it.
I think I have
The future with Rawad.
Exactly.
I think I have two main points to emphasize on. One, and they're interrelated. One, there is a chance for us to build a national identity and a national narrative once and for all. And I think over the past 20 years, there is a generation that has not suffered from the trauma of the prior generations. Yes, sectarianism may be, and of course it exists one way or another even within this younger generation, but this generation does not have the trauma of the Civil War or of the prior generations. This generation has the collective trauma of what we have suffered in the past few years, and this generation has the chance to build a national narrative once and for all. The Lebanese people have had a social uprising and a social revolt, and it was one of the very few moments where there was no sectarian divide, where all the people rallied about one thing, coming from a collective trauma and a collective suffering. And that's part of national identity. And a big portion of the youth today understand what happened in the past and who to blame and what happened.
Oh, wow. It's the first time the battery ran out.
I keep going?
Rawad, you're still there.
Okay. I'm going to keep going on elaborating this main point.
Yeah, I'll just make an acknowledgement. The battery is dying, so we're going to live with that one.
No problem.
Let me see how much. You've got at least 15 minutes.
Perfect. I don't think I need more. We have a great opportunity to tell the next generations about one narrative, that once and for all, we agree that the people of this country are citizens of that country, and that over the past period we've had successful things, one of which we were occupied by the Syrian army and we got them out, and that is one thing to acknowledge.
Keep talking.
Nevertheless, without judging who made that decision and who made that
Keep talking. No, keep talking.
Okay.
Because now you're speaking of my generation.
Okay, I'm gonna start over and in a very faster nutshell. I think there is a generation that did not suffer from the trauma of the Civil War, a generation that has some sort of a national identity that is forming one way or another. And I think the past 20 years gave the Lebanese people quite a few lessons. And I think there is a generation that understands what went wrong in the past and what shouldn't go wrong in the future. A generation that has its own understanding of the Civil War and what went wrong. A generation that has its understanding of what happened in south of Lebanon in the year of 2000. And a generation that has its own understanding of what happened in 2005. And a generation that was fully participating in a historical moment of 2019 of October 17. And we have a chance to build a national identity that is this Lebanese people, irrespective of what the sect is, reached a point where this country is independent. It doesn't have any foreign army on its soil. The Lebanese people have liberated the country from the Syrian occupation and the Israeli occupation, and revolted against a ruling criminal political elite. This is a chance for this generation to build a narrative and to build a homogeneous identity once and for all. And I'll go back to what you said, is that this country will always be sectarian. I disagree. This country will always be ethnically diverse or religiously diverse, but that does not mean this country will always be sectarian. Looking back 5 years back, no one would have thought that there will be 13 MPs in parliament who... I don't think everyone who voted for Mark is a Druze, or everyone who voted for Najat is a Christian, for example. And I think the people of Nabatiya and Bint Jbeil made a choice to go on election day and to vote irrespective of all the bullying and all the pressure, to vote for a list where they were very 100% sure that the candidate who's going to win, if there was a chance, was a Christian candidate or a Durzi candidate. And this is the reality now. So saying that this country will always be sectarian, I would definitely disagree on that. And I think that the main issue and the main concern for me as someone who's my age is that this socioeconomic crisis, and it's not Hezbollah right now, it's this socioeconomic crisis that is draining the country of its youth, who are going elsewhere to find new lives, new jobs, and new dreams. And this is what's draining the country, and this is the only thing that's gonna stop forming a national identity and what's gonna stop the development of this narrative. The issue today is not the fact that we cannot build this narrative and we cannot build this identity, rather than the country is facing one of the biggest socioeconomic crises of the world, and it's draining it from its own youth.
I will concede here that you may be right, and you will live longer than me, and you'll visit me either in heaven or hell afterwards. And
keep in mind, this is a cumulative process. It's gonna
Sure.
It's not gonna happen overnight. So
in our later years, I'll be 20 years ahead of you. Laurie hopefully will still be with us. Zaven too. Yeah.
Yes.
You may be right. I don't think so. I think we already have a national identity, and our national identity is sectarian. And I think without sectarianism, there's no such thing as Lebanon. It may be not the dream that we have today. It may not be fitting for the 21st century. And actually, it's a very outdated way of looking at people. But I do think we will always be a communal, confessional, consensus, power-sharing society until we all fade. And I worry that before we go further down what you're describing, you'll have a community that will find itself no longer at home. What hurt me in attending these rallies that you don't go to was hearing the language of divorce, of partition, of sever, coming from people that I know, and we all know, and hearing it from leaders you want to say the right thing and they're not saying the right thing. I see that. And it's not like an obtuse fringe view. I think this is increasing over time.
Can I say one thing? First of all, I think now I feel that you're more tending to become the Free Patriotic Movement member.
No.
At cut.
Last one.
And then, yes. And
no,
second,
me?
yes.
Me?
Yes.
I'm talking about Sami Jmeid.
No. And,
I'm not talking about Gibran Basir.
No. And like, believe me, like if I stay alive, I'll see you like part of the Free Patriotic Movement. But
even with Cynthia Zarazir.
But one more, like more on a serious.
Why do you say that?
On a serious note, I think the issue between what you said about like we will stay a sectarian country and what Rawad is saying, the problem is that they deserve a leadership that reflects their experience. And today, what we are seeing is that their experience and their generation is not represented by their generation. We are all represented by dinosaurs. We are all represented by people that have not lived their experiences. They've lived different experiences that are outdated.
Christian insecurity today.
That are outdated.
Laurie,
Habibi, today
the only thing that's gonna protect the Christians in this country is a secular modern country.
Now I'm the Christian among you now. I can talk about like how I feel about this.
I don't think
today because of this drive towards that the Christians and the need for the Christians to be strong, etc. I feel I'm the second-class citizen in this country. Because I feel that first you have the Maronite, then you have the Orthodox, then you have the Catholics, and then you have I don't know whom, and then there is these minorities called Armenian Christians that have no role in the country to play, in the public sector to play, and this is where we're heading. We are heading where sectarian minorities feel alienated. Today I feel like this. Tomorrow the Druze will feel like this, even though they think like they are at the origin of this country. The way we are heading with this identity, sectarian identity, religious identity, is going to alienate people from this country.
The only thing that will not alienate people is a secular.
They don't have that feeling.
System.
So he deserves a representative that is not people that have lived that fear, that My son doesn't feel that fear that he is a Christian Orthodox, Armenian Orthodox,
I never
etc.
felt
Never
the need,
felt that.
I don't feel the need that I have to be represented by a Shia candidate in parliament. Today, Firas, Hamdan, and Lies Jarad, they represent me way more than the three members who are actually representing my district. Today, I'm represented by Firas and Ilyes, and by Mark, and by and even maybe more even by Halima if we want to go extreme, more than I'm represented by Muhammad Raad and Hani Baisi and all other 27
That's
Shia
not a
parliament
detail.
member.
That's not details. This is reality that is happening. So now our fight is to create these leaders that represent this generation. I cannot have leaders. I am fed up of the Lebanese forces and the Free Patriotic Movement fight over things that happened in the 1990s. People are fed up of that. These are two leadership that need to disappear. They need to have a better leadership from their generation. And the biggest mistake that Gibran Bassil has done is like instead of projecting himself in the future, he went back to history and back to the war. And this is his biggest mistake.
I mean, we all have friends in the Lebanese forces, for example. But today, how can it be 2023 and in a party where no position is democratically elected?
Because we don't have that much more time, I will just state my case.
Yes.
I have to disagree with you, Laury. No one my whole life has ever compared me to the Free Patriotic Movement.
I did.
I've never, Christian insecurity or Sunni insecurity or whatever insecurity, I think is real.
No.
And the only reason...
No, it's not real.
Then I will have to...
And there is Shia insecurity. Why do they have weapons? Because they feel insecure. That's
the worst reading of Lebanese history, Laury.
No.
The Shia don't have weapons because they feel insecure. That's an imposed problem on a community. That's not Shia insecurity.
I'm just
saying...
Wait,
hold on.
She was playing with your
game.
game.
Exactly.
She was playing your game.
Exactly.
Playing your game.
My game is misunderstood. My game is misunderstood. Hold on.
Only institutions, only the constitution, only rule of law protects civilians in this country and citizens in this country. Sectarianism doesn't protect the Lebanese.
I misunderstood.
More protected.
The two parties.
I wouldn't feel more protected if I have the strongest of the Maronite president in Baabda. Okay. It wouldn't give me any feeling of security. Only respect of law, rule of law, constitution, and everyone having responsibilities and roles in front of the state and the institutions gives us that security.
I agree.
And you don't cut this. You will keep it in the podcast.
This is all staying. I just need to make my case heard at least, if there's time. I may be misunderstood. I meant that the overwhelming tide in this country's historic gravity falls on community identity, even if we don't share it. And I agree with the premise that we should move on from that insecurity too. I want that insecurity to go in a better place. I want it to be channeled in a way that makes sense, not in a way that's violent. What I was trying to allude to is that the paralysis that has defined our collective generation, almost two now, is driving one community, historically for 5 decades now, into a place where the Lebanese forces wins. In 2022, they win seats. They don't lose seats. The Free Patriotic Movement didn't do that bad. This is in 2022. You're talking about sectarianism. The most sectarian parties, maybe the most sectarian one, is the Lebanese forces. They gain seats. That's my point, is that this stuff, I think, is bigger than us.
Okay, but then again, in 2022...
And sorry, I want to add one more thing.
300,000 people voted for a non-sectarian approach.
Yes, you're right.
Which was not the case in 2005.
You're right, which is why maybe things are going to move in the direction you're describing. As a pessimist, I'm conceding. You could be right. Anyway, this is going to happen long after I'm dead. But Sunni anxiety, and I said it already, I'm not a Sunni. In my life, there is Sunni anxiety in this country. It's real.
And the only thing that's going to stop all this anxiety is a state that treats citizens as citizens equal and as not part of a communal group.
What has to happen before that, and I agree with you, is that the last group in this country that abides by civil war terms has to leave the civil war. When you get that done, all the good stuff begins to happen. Hezbollah cannot stay the way it exists. Once Hezbollah becomes part of everything we're talking about, you're going to have a great future ahead. And probably secularism will feed its way into most aspects of Lebanese politics down the road. But in the near term, this is going to be, I think, the reason why I think the more vicious language wins. I don't think of Sami Jmail as a vicious person. He's a drummer. He can sing. He plays John Lennon in his free time. The guy is not a warlord. Wallah, he doesn't represent that generation. He's speaking the language of divorce. I think a size of the community, a big enough size, feels the same way. And for me, that's the death of this country. And I don't want that to happen, and I want reform to take hold. I think we're all at the end of the day wanting the same thing, bil-akhir. It's just we're living through a very, very painful stretch and a very enriching episode. It's the longest one I've ever done. Okay. Post-editing, it'll be shorter than this, but we survived almost, 2 hours and 40 minutes of talking nonstop.
Wow.
It won't be that long. This conversation happened on a Wednesday evening. It'll come out Sunday night. So if things happen between now and then, it's not in the episode, it's on the news. Rawad, I wish you the best in your career.
Can I add one more thing before we're done?
Sure, but it may end then with you.
I think we need to emphasize before anything else on stopping the brain drain. Because what is more dangerous than all this bullshit divorce narrative and all this nonsense sectarian talk and all this conflict between the 13 MPs and the traditional opposition is that we are losing a generation. I was watching a video today of 30 people who were celebrating the results of LEU elections 4 years ago, and I only identified 2 people who are still in Lebanon. This is what's dangerous. All this nonsense, even the debate on Hezbollah and all its weaponry, it's nonsense if there is no generation to actually hold this debate. We are losing a generation, and this is what's important.
I think over time, this is why I'm increasingly drawn to you, both of you, because I see you more than I used to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because our circle is smaller. And Rawad, I've gotten to know you also the same way. I think this is what's left in terms of reform. And I think 80% of what we said is the same language. And I agree, you have to keep whoever's still here invested. And you found a way to do it. You inspire a lot of the young activists. You're also mature at a young age. And you're finding your way maybe to Taqaddum, maybe to another party. Who knows? But you're maturing very quickly, which is quite impressive. And Laury, you still have a lot of... I don't know what the word is, chemistry, electricity.
Thank you.
You're still fighting.
I work in energy, so
You work in energy.
the least I should have electricity.
This battery survived the whole way. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From sectarianism all the way back to Cynthia Zarazir. We did it. And everything in between. I'll do the handshake, confirming
Thank
it.
you.
Rawad, you're allowed to shake hands. Teacher,
We'll
teacher,
discuss it
student.
later.
Come to us.
Thanks for listening and watching. And a friendly reminder to support this podcast by contributing through Patreon or PayPal. All links are in the details box. Until next time, I'm Rani Shatah, and this is the Beirut Banyan.